The winter of 1692 brought not only piercing cold to the small village of Salem, but also an atmosphere of growing unease. Salem was a tight-knit community where nearly every family knew one another, and religious traditions governed every aspect of life. At that time, the settlement lived a modest and isolated existence, adhering to strict Puritan principles that cast doubt on any hint of free thought or deviation from the norms. But something dark began to awaken among the villagers, something that would soon turn their quiet lives into a nightmare. One day, two young girls, Betty Parris, the 9-year-old daughter of Reverend Samuel Parris, and her 11-year-old cousin Abigail Williams, began acting strangely. At first, their behavior seemed like harmless mischief. They spoke in odd ways, laughed at inappropriate times, and avoided interactions. But soon, their conduct took a terrifying turn. The girls screamed, thrashed about the house as if trying to escape something invisible, twisted their bodies into unnatural positions, and emitted inhuman sounds. Occasionally, they would freeze in place and, staring into the void, mutter about shadowy figures following them. Their parents, deeply concerned by this strange behavior, sought help from the local physician, William Griggs. After a thorough examination revealed no physical ailments, Griggs, being a devout man, offered a chilling conclusion: they are under the influence of witchcraft. This statement, uttered almost in a whisper, soon became a loud accusation that reverberated throughout the village. People began to murmur that dark forces had entered their homes, and suspicion quickly gave way to panic. Rumors spread like wildfire. Every resident of Salem began questioning who among them might be involved. After all, the devil could not act without accomplices. Who in the village was hiding their true nature? These thoughts planted the first seeds of hatred, which would soon grow into a bloody harvest. The atmosphere in Salem grew increasingly tense. By the spring of 1692, the fear of witches had become all-consuming. When Betty and Abigail, still suffering from their fits, were interrogated by their uncle, Reverend Samuel Parris, the girls finally named 3 women. These were Sarah Good, a beggar whose life was often the subject of gossip, Sarah Osborne, an elderly widow who rarely attended church and was known for her independence, and Tituba, a slave from Barbados, infamous for her strange tales of spirits and rituals. Tituba was the first to be arrested. Her status as a foreigner and a slave made her an easy target. Her interrogation was long and grueling. Under the threat of torture, she confessed to being a witch. But she did not stop there. Tituba claimed she was not acting alone. According to her, a coven of witches operated within the village, all bound by a pact with the devil. She described their secret gatherings, their rituals, and their plans to harm the good Christians of Salem. Meanwhile, Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne vehemently denied their guilt. They insisted they had never engaged in witchcraft. Yet their protests fell on deaf ears. During one hearing, Sarah Good, driven to the brink, declared, "You seek witches? Then look among yourselves. The devil walks among you in human form." Her words incited both outrage and fear, branding her the most dangerous of the accused. Tensions in the village continued to rise. Every peculiar behavior or misfortune was now seen as proof of witchcraft. Even those who had once been friends with the accused now turned away, fearing they might share their fate. The rumors of witches spread far beyond the Parris household. It seemed the entire village was consumed by collective madness. Any deviation from the norm was scrutinized as evidence of witchcraft. Those suffering from strange illnesses claimed witches had cursed them. Villagers feared leaving their homes after dark, dreading encounters with Satan's minions. At the same time, the interrogations of the accused grew increasingly brutal. Judge John Hathorne, known for his severity, spared no one. He demanded confessions, threatening torture and death. Those who confessed could hope for leniency, but those who refused faced even grimmer fates. As a result, many confessed to crimes they had never committed. The girls, whose accusations had sparked this tragedy, were now at the center of attention. They claimed to see spirits tormenting them and described their tormentors in harrowing detail. Their accounts fueled the villagers' fears, and each new accusation led to another wave of panic. Salem had become a theater of fear and suspicion, where anyone could be the next victim. Among the accused was Rebecca Nurse, an elderly woman known for her virtue and piety. Her arrest shocked the entire community. Even those who believed in witches could not fathom that Rebecca, a respected mother and grandmother, could be associated with the devil. Yet the girls, at the center of the hysteria, insisted they had seen her in their visions. At her trial, Rebecca steadfastly denied all accusations. She spoke softly but firmly, maintaining that she had never practiced witchcraft. Her words moved many, but Judge Hathorne was unconvinced. "The devil can take any form, even that of a virtuous woman," he declared. These words sealed Rebecca's fate. Despite numerous testimonies in her defense, she was found guilty. When she was led to the gallows, many villagers wept, but none dared to oppose the court. Her execution marked a turning point in Salem's history. People began to realize that no one was safe from accusations, and even the most respected members of the community could fall victim to suspicion. By the summer of 1692, the situation in Salem had spiraled out of control. Accusations flew in every direction. Many were driven not by fear, but by personal grudges or a desire to claim someone's property. On the stand were the elderly, pregnant women, and even children. Friends turned into enemies, and neighbors betrayed one another. The girls, whose visions and accusations had ignited this nightmare, began behaving even more erratically. They claimed to feel unseen hands touching them, see the devil's marks, and hear voices. These claims became the court's primary evidence, which required no corroboration. Even the doubters began to believe, if the children suffered so greatly, then evil must truly be among them. The village descended into complete paranoia. People feared speaking out or expressing doubts. Any word could be twisted into proof of guilt. It was a world where demons lived not in the shadows, but in the hearts of the people themselves. By the fall of 1692, the devilish paranoia in Salem reached its peak. Logic and compassion had no place in the village anymore. Any oddity was seen as undeniable proof of witchcraft. The trials became theatrical spectacles, where screams and tears drowned out reason. One of the victims of this madness was 15-year-old Anna Johnson. Anna was a quiet girl who preferred the company of books and nature. Her love for herbs and crafting ointments was well known throughout Salem. However, amidst the hysteria, her hobbies became suspect. Neighbors claimed they had seen her wandering the woods at night with strange bundles, while children whispered about hearing murmurs from her home. During her trial, the girl trembled, begging for mercy. She explained she had been gathering herbs for her sick mother. But the crowd demanded blood. She was found guilty and sentenced to hang. After Anna's execution, children began disappearing from the village. Grieving parents, driven mad with sorrow, claimed to hear their voices in the night, calling out to the devil's witches. Anna's trial left a deep scar on the villagers' consciousness, but it was only the beginning. After her execution, unexplainable phenomena started occurring in Salem. At night, moans echoed through the streets, and objects broke inside homes. On Rebecca Nurse's farm, Rebecca having been executed for witchcraft, neighbors reported strange lights emanating from an old barn. The most terrifying incidents involved Judge Hathorne. He began waking in the middle of the night, screaming about Rebecca Nurse's ghost standing by his bed. Her face was twisted from the noose, and her eyes burned with hatred. Rumors of hauntings spread quickly, fueling the growing paranoia. Villagers started accusing one another of summoning the spirits of witches for revenge. The girls, who had once been at the center of the accusations, now claimed they were haunted by the spirits of the executed witches, warning them of an impending catastrophe. The entire village was engulfed in fear. No one knew whom to trust anymore. Salem became a graveyard of broken lives. Families that had once lived in harmony turned against each other. One of the most tragic stories was that of the Putnam family. Joseph Putnam was a respected man until accusations fell upon his mother. To protect his children from the mob's wrath, he was forced to sign her death warrant. But even that didn't save him. Weeks later, Joseph himself was arrested on charges of conspiring with witches. His youngest son, Johnny, terrified by threats, gave false testimony against his father. At the trial, Joseph embraced his son and forgave him, but the mob demanded severe punishment. This marked a turning point for many in the village. They saw how fear could destroy even the strongest bonds. By early 1693, the hysteria began to wane, though not out of repentance. The judges realized that too many accused had died without confessing their guilt, which became inconvenient for the authorities. After all, witchcraft required a clear admission of a pact with the devil. Pastor Thomas Green, known for his bold sermons, dared to speak out against the trials. His sermon on false testimony shook some villagers. He posed questions no one could answer. Why is God silent if we are righteous? Why do the faithful perish? These words sowed doubt. People began recalling how the accused had prayed before their deaths. Even those who once believed in the trials started wondering, what if they themselves had become instruments of the devil? By the summer of 1693, the trials came to an end. New accusations became rare, and many of the surviving accused were released. But the village was forever scarred. Fields lay fallow, homes stood abandoned. Many families left, unwilling to remain on blood-soaked land. The girls, who once screamed about visions, were now silent. Some moved to other towns, trying to forget what they had done. Years later, one of them, Betty Paris, confessed that many of the accusations had been lies. But these confessions could no longer bring back the dead. Salem became a symbol of how fear and hatred can destroy even the most united community. Every stone, every ruined house, served as a reminder of what had happened. And on dark nights, villagers still told stories of those who returned from the grave to remind the living of the cost of their madness. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and watch my other videos.